That was beautiful. Oh, thank you. I could have worked around it. I'm good. I actually like this though.
Save the chair.
All right. Well, last week we talked about the ABCs of SOM, and I felt like we were doing our primer. And hi, Daly, did you want to come up for a minute? Come here. Come here. Let me hold your hand up the stairs. I love your new dress. Is this a new dress? Did you want to sit here and hold high watch for me while I do my talk? You did? Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Oh, my hands are cold. I'm sorry about that. All right. So, ta-da. We have youthful prodigy, whether it's musically or in consciousness, holding the high watch. So, thank you. Wow. You guys don't need Sirius or Pandora at your house, do you? You have built-in music. It's wonderful. And they sparkle while they're up here. That was really lovely. Thank you all. Are you comfortable with those? Do you want me to put those down for you? Or I didn't want you to have to hold them if you're all right? You're all right. And you're good? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. All right. So we're moving on in our theme for the month of Back to Basics, because last week was the ABCs of Science of Mind. And as I had mentioned last week, but I'll say it again, that in January, it's typical that most of the religious science centers and churches review the principles of Science of Mind, because some people are here for the very first time and don't even know what Science of Mind is or religious science. Many of us who've been in this for years could use a refresher course. So we're moving forward with concepts about the basics of who we are. Now, what I want to say and begin with, because thank you, Drenya, for leading them in that song, what many of you may not have been aware of our beautiful opening song called Affirmative Prayer, is actually a 5-step musical treatment. It's one of the reasons I love the piece and one of the reasons I like to use it in January, because we are musically saying the 5 steps of treatment that we talked about last week, our spiritual mind treatment. So if you want, you can take home those lyrics and look at that. But as we get to know the song better and singing along, what a lovely way in the middle of your day, if you feel distracted by external events or feelings, that you could start to hum or sing that song and it be an affirmative prayer. So you've got that to use. Did you get to hear our song?
Will you sing it for us?
Oh, I wish she knew it. She could sing it. Oh, no, thanks, Jenny. Then you would be saying, keep your day job, and then it is my day job, and then we'd all go back, and I'd have to look to Drenya and Linda. But thank you. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. So next week, as you hear it, the next couple of Sundays, really listen to it. Now that you have the awareness that it is a 5-step treatment. So you wonder sometimes, what are the 5 steps of spiritual mind treatment? How do we do it? You've got this song to remind you. And for umpteen years, the way that stories and inspiration took place was through song. The balladeers and the troubadours would come to the tribes and to the cities and the communities and sing songs to express information. Now you have that by which to remember what we do in terms of treatment. So the other thing about the basics coming back into January is that so many of us come right off of the holidays, the wonderful, all the hubbub and all of that goes on in the holidays, and we get through there, and then here comes New Year's, and I don't know about you, I don't do it as much anymore since I've been a religious scientist, but you get towards the New Year, and there's that push, that drive. It's like, okay, I've got to get everything done before midnight on December 31st. And then I have to have my New Year's list, goals and resolutions in place. And then if you're also like me, then you don't look at the New Year's resolutions against the old ones, because you start getting really kind of crunky. I start picking on myself and saying, oh, that list still has everything for, except 5 things from 2014, and I didn't do that, and I start to pick on myself. Which is one of the reasons I don't espouse resolutions, because if you take the word resolution, it is re-solution, means you're trying to do it again and again. Hence, the topic title today is Again? Question mark. Again? Yes, again. Because why? Behold, I make all things new. And we get to come back together again on a Sunday morning to learn again what we want to know and what we may have forgotten and what may have gotten so crowded in the process of our new year. We get to learn again how to use these teachings. So it's a very bold idea that Ernest Holmes put together way back when in terms of what we call religious science. That is our technical name. And as I taught last week, that the book that we refer to, The Science of Mind, used to be originally titled The Science of Mind and Spirit, so that it brought forth the concept of love and law, not just making it sound like a textbook, which it is and looks like and is heavy enough to be a textbook, but it represents the principles of what we teach. When Ernest Holmes synthesized the world's wisdom, a lot of the Eastern tradition, and put it into a Western construct so that you and I could find a way to use this material to uplift us, to inspire us, to give us ideas and tools and things like spiritual mind treatment in order to make our lives that which we want them to be, to improve, to heal. And we teach things like meditation, contemplation, spiritual mind treatment, prayer, quiet, stillness, and then through music, we're able to find that. What is your favorite song, Daly? Do you have one?
Old MacDonald.
Old MacDonald! Now, you know what's good about Old MacDonald? I bet everyone in this room could start to sing Old MacDonald. Yeah, see? Mm-hmm. Why? Because it's something that we learned in song that was repetitive, which is why I'm bringing your attention to our opening song, Affirmative Prayer, why we use the offertory song that we do, because by now, most of you, those who have been here for a while, know it by heart and can sing it, and what happens is we are changing the wiring of our brain, those of you who attend Dr. Johnny's class on Monday, changing the wiring of our brain with the habit and the repetition of positive words. And those positive words I don't know how positive they are in Old MacDonald, but the positive words in our songs allow us to change the thoughts, to change the feelings, and once the feelings are changed, then they change the thoughts again. And it's a wonderful process of biology and psychology. So here we are, beginning the new year, and it has calmed down just a little bit. There's not that rush, that pressure of getting things done, of checking off the list, writing the new list, and doing the resolutions. Well, I have a very dear friend, and she lives in Morro Bay, and she sent me something in email, and she was saying she didn't want to do resolutions this year. She said this year what she wanted to do was something more along the lines inspired by the mystic poet Rumi. You're mostly familiar with Rumi. Well, Rumi has an essay and a poem about living the questions. And so she took the questions that Rumi wrote and she has put them together. And this is what she thinks that she's doing this year. And I liked it enough, I thought, oh. So for a moment, just without getting too concerned, think about some of those things that were on your New Year's resolution list, those things that you were looking at, whether they were on the list from a year or two ago, or they're fresh and new for the new year. Think about some of those things that you know that the new year, that incredible transcendental experience that happens. Thanks, Daly, when you... Thank you. I appreciate it. See you later. Bye-bye. Yeah, you can tell them what you did. It was great. Bye-bye. I love it. It's perfect. Can you see me? No, you couldn't see me, can you? You can't see me. All right. So if you take that cathartic experience that happens when you cinematically tear off the page where it said December 31st, 2014, and you tear that off and then it says, with trumpets sounding somewhere in the background, January 1, 2015. It almost has that opening sound of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, if those of you who watch that. It just has that cosmic feeling, a brand new page, a brand new year, a brand new feeling nature of enthusiasm by which you can create your world. So think about what it is that you might want to do this year, just gently and easily. And then let's turn to Rumi to approach it. First question, how can I let go of my need for fixed answers in favor of aliveness? Oh, fixed answers. That means that usually when we have a list, we have something that we have an expectation is going to answer that list. It's going to fill in that gap. Humanly, in that Western mind, we start to say, well, this is, okay, I want to change my body, so I'm going to change my diet and my exercise habits. Now, if we left it at there and did our prayer work about that and let Spirit guide us naturally to being called to those right foods or being called to the beautiful Bidwell Park for a walk and exercise, but instead, what usually happens to us is we go, oh, okay, all right, got to cut out that. I have to go and visit that gym. I've got to get up early and do this. And we start making those linear lists. And I bet that feeling of aliveness, that sense of joy when you turned off that first page, kind of went flat. So, how can I let go of my need for fixed answers, certainty, in favor of aliveness? Apply that to one of yours. His next question is, what is my next challenge in daring to be human? Ooh. I know I don't necessarily think of it as my challenge in being human, being in this body, form, and vehicle in the world. What is my next daring challenge? Not looking for a challenge in the sense of something that's going to cause me consternation and grief, but something that I may do, that I'm being charged to do because I am here in this body, on this planet, at this time. What is my next challenge in daring to be human? Because we're here. We want to make the most of this life. His next question is, how can I open myself to the beauty of nature and human nature? Well, as I said, around here, one need only look up in the sky. The clouds in Chico are extraordinary. Or take a trip over to Bidwell Park, one of the most beautiful landscapes in the world, and you get a sense of nature, outside nature. The trees, the sky, oh, the fragrance, all that stuff. But then what about human nature? Most of the time, we're grousing about human nature. My neighbor did this, blah, 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 and so loud, and a party until 2 in the morning, and I had to get to sleep. Or my colleague, my boss at work is just so cranky and never gives me any time. We tend to look at human nature with the foibles. What if we interacted with one another, these humans that we are sharing on this planet Earth, with the same awe and reverence of outside nature, is to look for that nature. Remember, name and nature are the same in the Bible. And look for that nature within each of us as the human beings that we are. Not the human doings. Remember, we are human beings. So when you get stuck in looking at someone and their human nature is not doing what you want them to do, see if you can revert back to the nature of who they are, the human beingness of who they are, and release those fixed expectations and answers. Next, he writes, who or what do I need to learn to love next? He and I must go way back in some past life, because that's the genesis, in a way, of why I ask, how may I love you today? The who is easy. You've showed up, so I kind of know the who. For me, it's how. What may I do and know? But for each of us, who or what may I love next? Oh, wouldn't it be lovely? We just got off of Christmas, where many of us had presents beautifully wrapped, as shiny as your dress and your headband, with those sparkles under the Christmas tree lights. And we began to open the present, and we couldn't wait to open those presents. It's like, oh, someone loved me enough. Oh, look at this tie. I don't get ties. I did get one tie, but I don't usually get gifted ties. But you open up the present with that, well, if we took that enthusiasm and that joyous expectancy about, oh, who may I love next? Oh, I have a colleague, Reverend Bonnie Rose, in Ventura. And we have a game that we used to play every year at Asilomar, which is the summer camp for religious science. And we would sit in the master hall, it's where everybody comes in and checks in, and there's a piano and a ping pong thing, and everybody just hangs out. It's really kind of like the big meeting room. It's nothing official. And sometimes we would play a game, and we would sit on the bench, and we would say, okay, the next person who comes in is going to be my new best friend. And we'd wait to see the door open. And it'd be like, sometimes it would be somebody we know and we'd go, oh no, I don't want to be with it would be somebody we know from the movement that, maybe pushed our buttons or we didn't get along with. And it'd be like, no, you take that person. No, you take that person. And so we had this game. And sometimes we'd change the game up every year with different things. And at one point, forgive me, Don, when I was single, it would be like, she would say, okay, your dream man is the next guy who, your dream man is who's walking in the door. It was like, you go, and it was an interesting game. Thank you for showing up in my life, honey. The idea being, if we had that enthusiasm that every time the door opened, or the phone rang, or we went and stood in line and the checker who is there, if we thought about, who do I get to love next? What a charge. Then it's not our human self going, oh, we're supposed to love everybody, even that person that is so hard to love, that person who pushes my buttons, or I let them push my buttons. Remember, they didn't install the buttons. They may nudge up against you and lean on you and they push it, but they didn't install those buttons. Or what may I love next? Perhaps this new year, there's something calling to you to learn a musical instrument, to learn how to play music, or to learn a new language, or to do something new. What may I love next? What may I put my heart, soul, and energy upon so that it grows in the beauty of the nature of God? Well, talk about growing. His final question is, what is the new creation that wants to be born in and through me? Wow. I'm not sure how many of us think about creating. A lot of us, and I grew up most of my life not thinking of myself creative because I couldn't draw, and I couldn't sew, and I couldn't cook. And so all of the other people in my family, that's what women did that were creative. You had children, you learned how to sew, cook, clean, garden, do all those things, none of which called to me or which I was good at. And I couldn't draw, and nobody would ever choose me for their Pictionary team. Truly. So I grew up with all that thinking, well, I'm not creative. Gratefully, that changed. Gratefully, in addition to what may be considered creative arts or skills, I began to learn, because of this philosophy, that everything I do is creative, because every thought I think is creative. It is creating and outpicturing that demonstration or experience in my life. That's pretty darn creative. One doesn't have to know how to cook or draw or sing or play music to be creative. So if you've grown up with most of your life thinking, I'm not creative, I can't sing like this person, I can't dance, or I don't, all those things that we attribute to the creative arts, frankly, if I had my way and when I become queen instead of just a duchess, then the creative art, the master creative thought will be the, I get so excited, don't I? The master art will be the creativity of thinking. And then all arts will fall underneath that. Because if you think about the music you want to play, you think about the recipe that you want to cook. So to me, the master art, the most creative thing that any or all of us can do is to use our thought and to use it in conjunction with the co-creator. Call it God, call it spirit, call it the force, call it life. Call it what you will, but please call it. Find it. Let it call to you. Let it assist you in answering some of these questions. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, suggested there's really only one spiritual reality, and it must have one spiritual law, and that is cause and effect. And that is why your thought, your predominant thought that has the feeling nature to it, your predominant thought is what is going to outpicture in your experience. As I think, so I am. With the seeds I plant, I sow, and I reap that harvest. Same thing. So we've been talking about it since biblical times. Then we bring it into mystical times, and then we bring it into more current times with the transcendentalists that influenced Dr. Holmes to the idea of that which I put my thinking and attention on, I create. And now we have tons and tons of motivational thinkers and speakers and writers who echo that. Now we have wonderful physicists and biologists and doctors like Dr. Joe Dispenza who talk about the brain wiring that corroborate that. So interestingly enough, our philosophy that we've all had for a long time is now coming to the forefront with all of these other experts saying that, oh yeah, that's it. Well, you got it. But they haven't been listening to most of us because for a long time we were doing it from the construct of being a church. And if it didn't match the predetermined ideas and expectancies of what a church is, then they didn't pay attention. Well, they're paying attention to us now. And it's being sung and spoken and written about by different voices, names, and people, but saying the same concepts. So with that, what I'm going to do is read to you our core beliefs. Those of you who've been in religious science a long time know them. They're in our textbook. A lot of times they were in our programs. At one point it got changed to gender neutralness so that it could be said instead, because at the time that Holmes wrote it in the late 20s and early 30s, saying he was not a derogatory sense. It was the masculine, and now we have it both ways, so we can do it. So I'm going to read through our core beliefs and then talk about them in between a little so it doesn't make it quite so dry, because I don't want you to think I'm reading you the Constitution, but I am. It's kind of our Constitution. It is our Declaration of Independence, if you will. We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause, capital C, cause, meaning, not a cause like a charity that you follow and support, a cause meaning that active state that then outpictures the creative law of mind, one self-existent cause, that we are one with all of that. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. Well, see, when Ernest writes stuff like that, that's when I used to go, because it didn't have the feeling nature. It really responds to the head, and when I really am in trying to wrap myself around it, it's like, oh, the manifest universe is the body of God. Yes, its logical and necessary outcome is, it's like, okay. Breathe. And remember that we're one. Remember that we are one with that co-creator, and remember that we are the self-existent cause. Our thought, our creative process is what outpictures as our capital L life. We believe in the incarnation of Spirit in us, and that all people are incarnations of the one Spirit. Well, that's sometimes where we differ with a lot of faiths or religions or philosophies, because we teach that we are one with God. And for some faiths, that's blasphemy. We teach that which we attribute to God, capital G, is exactly who we are because we couldn't be separate from it. That which created us is us, within us, as us. We believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever. We believe that heaven is within us and that we experience it to the degree. We believe that heaven is within us and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. Okay, this is another place where we diverge from a lot of faiths and philosophies. I was taught that heaven was a geographical place in the sky that God managed, was the administrator, the CEO, and that if as a good girl I did the right things, somewhere at the end of my life I would go to heaven. We don't teach it quite that way. That we feel was a metaphor. Not that it's inaccurate, but that heaven, which is a higher exalted state, is a higher exalted state that generates and begins with our own thinking, feeling nature. How many of us, when we are humanly walking through that thing called life, and we have deep, dark, or difficult challenges, have been known to say we are walking through hell, that it's hellacious? Well, same thing when I was a little girl, because we had that upper level of heaven, we also had a lower level. And what we know as humans, Western humans in this society, is that hell is often the difficulty of what life makes of itself for us. And it's how we attribute it. So we become conscious of the exalted state of heaven, feeling that connection, feeling that love, feeling that joy, is a state of mind, is a state of body and feeling. We're in a heavenly-like experience. Or we're having challenges and we're stuck in the middle of that challenge and it feels awful. It feels like we're walking through the dark tunnel and there is no light at the end. We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and this goal is sure to be attained by all. Well, the ultimate goal of life is a complete emancipation is sounding like I should be doing this in February for Lincoln's birthday. But truly, the ultimate goal is to understand how we are wired, our divine nature, the heaven of our heart and soul. Once we know that, once if we truly, each of us could really know that we are God Express, that you are the beloved in whom God is well pleased, if you truly knew that, you would be emancipated, you would be free. You wouldn't be trapped by the external stuff, by the lists, by the expectations, by the comparison of last year's resolutions to this year's resolutions, and then start to implode. You would be free to know who you are. We believe in the unity of all life and that the highest God is the innermost God, is one God. The highest God and the innermost God is one God, meaning that which we ascribe as the highest expression of life, whether you want to logically put it up higher. And I do, actually. You've seen me. Sometimes I look up. Why do I look up? Not because I expect that there is some beatific soul up there at a white desk with a lot of clouds. I look up because I want to bring my attention, my energy, and intention upward, higher. Not thinking at the level of the problem that Einstein talks about. So the highest God, meaning that kind of richness and fullness of life that we have all experienced, is the innermost God, the same God that most of us know when we go within and it's quiet and it's still, and we connect with God, or we look at a flower, or we hear a beautiful piece of music, and something that's so indescribable connects us to a greater something than we our human selves are. That's the innermost God. Well, we teach that that highest state of God, that which we are ascribing to, and that innermost state of God is the same God. It is one God, one life, one perfect life, and that's who we are. And we believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. We believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone can be a revealer of this truth who lives in close contact with their indwelling God. Anyone. Yes, it's lovely to have that title, Reverend, in front of my name. Yes, I know my practitioners are happy to have religious science RSCP that follow their name. I know that we have all kinds of wonderful, but it's really about that indwelling presence, and that anyone can know that and be that. Titles are optional. They're sprinkles on the ice cream in the cake. But anyone can be a revealer of this truth. We believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, capital M, mind, which is the law of God. And we are surrounded by this creative mind, which receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it. Well, this is where I bring out my annual cookie baking metaphor. When those of you who cook, when you make cookie dough, or my mom used to buy the Pillsbury roll cookie dough, cut it up and make cookies. When you make your cookie dough, in whatever way you do, then you often, as a kid, we used to get cookie cutters in shapes of animals or hearts and stars. And then we would take the cookie dough and we would cook on the cookie dough, right? And we make cookies out of that to match what cookies we wanted. Sometimes we wanted the stars and the bells and the Christmas trees at Christmas. Sometimes we made heart-shaped cookies for Valentine's Day. The idea being is that we chose the cookie cutter, the shape and the mold, and then we took the cookie dough and we made the cookies. We put them in our little easy bake ovens, and then voila, cookies. It's the same process. If you thought of your thoughts as the cookie cutter mold, or the Jell-O mold or something, and that the creative law of mind, that incredible, infinite intelligence of which we speak, is all there kind of rolled out on a cutting board for you. And if your thought, whichever thought it is you want, you took that and went, okay, this is my thought, this is the desire I have for 2015 or this week, and you impressed it on the dough. You got very clear about, well, of course, that's what I'm going to have. Those are my cookies because I have that shape in my mind. I put it onto the cookie dough of the creative law of mind, that incredible intelligence. I put it in the oven, and by the oven in this case, I mean I take it within. I trust it into that creative law of mind. I let it go. The little timer goes ding. You open the door, and there are your cookies. There is your demonstration. It can be as simple as that. And it's a lot easier than some of the stuff like, what did I just, that thing about the necessary outcome, the infinite self-knowingness. Wow, that can get like very heady and send you in another direction. But if you think about, oh my goodness, and if you're not a cook, Play-Doh, whatever happened to Play-Doh? That smell was so extraordinary on Play-Doh. It was pre-aromatherapy, but there was something about the smell of Play-Doh that brought great comfort. Okay, I digress as I often do. Take your Play-Doh and your cookie cutter mold, the thought of which you wish to outpicture in the world, put it onto the Play-Doh, and there you have it. It is really that simple. And when we vary from that, we go back within and check in with the higher self, the innermost self, and we revisit the recipe. And if it doesn't work, if it wasn't the right one, or you were making stars and you really didn't want stars, guess what you get to do? You take that dough and you roll it out again and you pick the cookie cutter with hearts. There you go. Behold, I make all things new. We believe in the healing of the sick through the power of the mind, and we believe in the control of conditions through the power of this mind. Well, that's what we talk about when someone is ailing, having a dis-ease, whether it's a physical ailment or emotional ailment, a financial ailment, is that we begin to pull out the dough that says wholeness and healing, and we get the little cookie cutters that say health, vibrancy, restoration, recuperation, and we start baking the cookies of health and wholeness. I don't mean to sound like I'm belittling that or discounting this process, because what we do in spiritual mind treatment towards healing is huge and powerful. But I'm also trying to take some of the mystique out of it so that each of you know that you can do that. And when you don't know, you think, or don't think you can do that, that's when you come to the ministers and the practitioners so that they can, pull out the recipe card for you, go into their pot, pull out the right cookie cutter into the dough, and know the infinite truth of your being. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. And it closes with, we believe in our soul, our spirit, our own destiny, for we understand that our life is God's life. Now, why that's significant, why we close on that, is because if we continue to think that God is something outside of ourselves, away, distant, someone who is omniscient, omnipresent, magnificent, so incredibly powerful, and I am just this little nothing, then we have separated ourselves and we've created duality. And then we don't have the immediate access and skills to using the tools of this teaching to know our wholeness, to know our oneness, to create and bake the cookies of our dreams, those ideas, goals, call them resolutions, visions and dreams that we want to outpicture in the world. And then as we bake those and we have that, then we can go back to Rumi's thing, and then we've got this tray of delicious cookies, our demonstrations in life, the beingness, who we are, that we may share and serve with one another, hence the community. That's what it's about. And so we say again, yes, again. We talk about this again. We do this again. We roll out the dough, make it smooth, and I don't care how many times you may have pulled out that cookie cutter for one shape and tried it. Yes, you do it again. Because you now use the infinite skills, the recipe of mindfulness, contemplation, meditation, spiritual mind treatment, prayer, and your awareness, that mindfulness, by which to create the dough, the shape, and the desire to outpicture. Those are the basics. Back to the basics again, yes. Now we go back to the basic again of turning within. Please join me. So take any and all of what you've just shared, heard, or felt, and just let it filter down through your being. Kind of like fairy dust. Just let it, from the top of your head where you've been thinking and listening and hearing and cogitating and resonating to some and dismissing others, just let it filter down around your body till you breathe back into the awareness of this moment in your chair, being here now. And as you do that, begin to breathe into the present moment. And I'm just gently going to read the Rumi questions again. Need not try an effort to answer them. Just let them settle and perhaps impress themselves in your consciousness. How can I let go of my need for fixed answers in favor of aliveness? Breathe that in. What is my next challenge in daring to be human? How can I open myself to the beauty of nature and of human nature? Who or what do I need to learn to love next? And next. And again. Next. And what is the new creation that wants to be born in and through me? So as we let that settle into the consciousness of our being, I know that whatever it is we need to remember or work with from today's lesson or these questions or our principles will be there and will remind itself through you. And so for now, we just breathe in this knowingness and this collective consciousness that there is only the one life of God. That life is perfect. And that life is my life. I am one with God in all ways. And perhaps my prayer is now just to remove anything or any belief or pattern that stands in the way of my knowing and feeling that. If I am one with God, and I am, and all of life is mine now to enjoy, to use, to create, to share, to be, and to love, then this prayer is about releasing anything that blocks that blocks my vision or understanding of that, whatever real or imagined obstacle that may have kept me from knowing my greater truth before now is lovingly dissolved. And it is dissolved in the collective consciousness of this greater community as we come together in this prayer, knowing it with and for ourselves and with and for each other. And as I know this so clearly and so deeply, I affirm it into the fabric of my being, into the consciousness with my intention and attention. And then it is with great courage and great enthusiasm that I now release it, because I have what often is called faith, and believe and know that the highest most God and the innermost God is the one God that I am. And I celebrate and rejoice this brand new year that unfolds before me, by which I may experience that to a greater level than ever before. What must I love next? Myself in knowing this truth, in trusting and allowing this truth. Myself as the one. And so it is with this confident, clear declaration and affirmation of truth that I can release it into the infinite law, the creative mind, and trust and know that it is already taken care of, and the easy bake oven of infinite life now presents me with all that I desire, easily effortlessly, lovingly, and joyously. I give thanks that it is so. I ask that you join me together as we say, and so it is, and so we are. Amen.